You're listening to the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. My name is Bill McIntyre, and it's time for this week's Long Island News. The news show that talks to newsmakers from Nassau and Suffolk County that matter to Long Island and Long Islanders like you. So each week we'll have a conversation about issues that affect all of us. I live on Long Island, and I'd like to know and know more about where my tax dollars are going, and I want to know more about the people making the big decisions that affect all of us and the people who are in the community trying to help people in need, which is what today's show is all about. Now, it's been a few months since the Supreme Court overturned the Roe v. Wade decision. So where are we now? And for that, we'll turn to the experts that have accepted our invitation to join us today from Planned Parenthood of Greater New York. So I'd like to welcome to the show Nicole Margiasso, the Director of Organizing. And Nicole is also with a co-worker, the press coordinator for Planned Parenthood of New York, Ale Pedraza Buenahora. Okay, so I know, just with the recent, changes in everything, that must have thrown everything into upheaval as far as Planned Parenthood of New York. So let's start at the beginning. Why don't you tell us what Planned Parenthood of Greater New York is all about, and what types of services you offer and that kind of thing?
Certainly. So Planned Parenthood of Greater New York is one of the 5 Planned Parenthood affiliates in New York. There's actually 2 Planned Parenthoods affiliates that serve Long Island, ourselves and Planned Parenthood of Hudson-Peconic. Planned Parenthood of Greater New York serves Nassau County in particular. And we are really proud to offer expert, high-quality, comprehensive sexual and reproductive health care to all community members, regardless of age, race, sexual orientation, gender identity, health insurance status, or zip code. We care for all community members, and our doors are open to everyone, no matter what. So before I start, I do just want to affirm again, considering the topic of this show, that to remind all community members that abortion care is still safe and legal and accessible here in Nassau County, and we will continue to fight for that no matter what.
Very good.
So back to our services, we offer a full range, again, of sexual and reproductive health care, including safe and legal abortion, both surgical and medical, STI testing, treatment, and vaccines, gender-affirming hormone therapy, HIV services, men and women's wellness checks, contraception, sexual assault support services, sex education, among other services.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think that was one of that's the big misconception, is that abortion is the only thing. There's a lot of prenatal care and, just regular medical services that can be gotten at Planned Parenthood. Abortion is not the only thing going on there. Yeah.
Absolutely. We are proud to offer abortion care as it is part of the full spectrum of reproductive health care. We do not currently offer prenatal care at our health centers. We design the services based upon what services are not being offered in the larger community, and that is how we determine what we offer. Okay. But we certainly, are looking to support the sexual and reproductive health care needs of all of our community members.
Right. So you fill a gap in a lot of cases where people can't get that kind of care anywhere else.
Absolutely. And, we have the longest reputation in history for providing sexual and reproductive health care in our country. We are the only healthcare provider that's in all 50 states. So we are a trusted expert leader for sexual and reproductive health care.
In some of the reading that I've done recently about, abortion, obviously, I came to understand that most of the abortions that were done, even in the country, were basically chemical. The taking of a pill or a medicine, or they're not necessarily surgical procedures.
So that would be referred to as medical abortion. And most abortions do happen within the first trimester, and you can take medical abortion up to 10 weeks of pregnancy. And we are hoping to be offering medical abortion by mail within the next year.
Right. So let's talk about the debate between since the Supreme Court overturned it, but now states can make their own policies. And so what is the current situation in New York?
Great question. So we are what we consider to be an access state. We have pro-sexual and reproductive health care legislature and governor. And so we are one of the states in the country that is proud to be considered an access state who is committed to protecting our safe legal right to abortion for all people living here and also for out-of-state patients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk, and it's sometimes hard to separate the what's true from somebody just going off. Well, now, do you have to be a New York resident to receive abortion care in New York State?
No, we actually anticipated an influx of patients from other states. And even before the overturn of Roe, we served patients from our neighboring states, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. And so that continues. But we have seen an influx of patients from Texas, Florida, Georgia, and we absolutely are providing them the same care that we offer our own residents who live here. We have actually, PPGNY has gone ahead and hired a patient navigator who is specific to serve our out-of-state patients who may have additional needs, needed resources for their healthcare needs as they come to New York.
Wow. Has yet been any legal ramifications for people who have come from out of state?
Not that I'm aware of. And actually, because again, we have pro-sexual and reproductive health care champions in our state government here. Governor Hochul actually went ahead and passed 6 bills to protect patients and providers in anticipation of folks coming in from out of state and our providers serving them.
Talk about birth control. Does a woman have to be 18 years old to receive your services?
No, absolutely not. And patients who come to our health centers, they receive confidential services. We definitely encourage all of our young patients to have conversations with trusted adults in their lives. But at the end of the day, it is their decision to make over their bodies, and our services are confidential.
Just wondering, too, what's the cost of a visit to Planned Parenthood?
It depends. We do, accept health insurance. We do work with people to help them get set up for health insurance, but it depends on the patient. And we have navigators there who receive our patients and help them to navigate. But, our care is available to everyone, no matter what. We will not turn anyone away.
Right. I'm still a big advocate. I don't know why we don't have it, universal health care. How does Planned Parenthood in general feel about that?
Yeah, that's a bit out of my range as far as, that policy goes. But what I would say is, our mission is to provide for the sexual and healthcare needs of our community. And that is what we are grounded in. So anything that would help us to do that, to support our communities more, we would be on board with.
Right. Well, that's good to know. And whereabouts on Long Island are you located?
We have 2 health centers in Nassau. One is in Hempstead and one is in Massapequa. Our Massapequa one is temporarily closed. There was an accident that happened. And so we're taking this opportunity with a motor vehicle. So we're taking this opportunity to upgrade our building. So that will be opening soon again. And our Hempstead Health Center is open every day except for Sundays. And
a good question, does Planned Parenthood offer services to men?
Absolutely. We offer services to all genders. So that includes women, men, non-binary people. You're all welcome here. We pride ourselves with really being educated and offering the most comprehensive, compassionate care to people of all genders. Yes.
Do you have any kind of, I guess symposium is not really the word, but like classes or things that you offer in the field just for people in general?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So we do a lot of community engagement. For me, with my organizing team, we do both community in person and also virtual teach-ins, trainings, workshops. My sphere is more in the advocacy realm. So really, what are we doing to lead the fight for sexual and reproductive rights and justice? But we have other programs that are more about education. We have educators who are out in the community, at local high schools. We also work with college students, again, to really raise awareness and education around sexual and reproductive health care and also sexual and reproductive rights. We also have some programs that train adults how to be role models, how to train adults how to talk about sex with their kids. We believe that education is power, and the more educated our communities are, the healthier they will be, the better choices they will make, and the healthier our communities will be as a whole.
Yeah, certainly. Well, that would be the normal intuitive thing to think, that the better educated, the better off we all are. But there are quite a few states in the good old U.S. of A. now who are hell-bent on getting us back to the Middle Ages. And they took a big step a little while ago. This was something I don't think any of us thought. It went through the whole process of becoming a law. And after that happened, we felt it was pretty settled.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, we in this movement knew this was coming, and it was still unbelievable. It was still shocking. It was still horrific. It is still a grave offense against our humanity and dignity as people, and not just women, trans men, all people who need sexual and reproductive health care in their lives, which includes everyone, is really crippling to our communities. And so, I think the whole country is kind of in shock that this happened. And of course, the question lingers, what else can happen? What other rights can be attacked? What are the rights that have been fought for that can be taken away? And so it's really incredibly important that people leverage their electoral power and get out and vote this fall and vote for electeds who support our rights to basic dignity and humanity. So just to put a plug for that as well.
Yeah, it's scary. I think we should all be, a little, more attentive. But that's true of every facet of, politics. If I go out in the street right now and ask 5 people who their local representatives are, I bet you there might be one who could tell me.
Right.
Which, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. We all do that. To ask somebody just off the cuff, who's your state senator? A lot of times you'll get a blank stare. They don't know. They don't know. But this is the result. When we're not watching, things like this can happen. And you're right. How many other rights that we've gained in the last, say, 50 years, how many of those could be up on the chopping block? And I think people that are happy about the turnover of Roe v. Wade don't get that, because some of the things that they're connected to and involved in could be usurped in the same way.
Yeah. And, I think the thing to remember is, we're often told that this is a politically divisive issue. The reality is 80% of Americans supported the right to choose prior to the Supreme Court taking away this right. So the Supreme Court is not reflective of or responsive to the will of this country. Yeah. And this has become, has ignited this country, both as plunging us into a national healthcare crisis, and also that this is a top issue for our upcoming election.
Yeah.
And the thing to remember is, these are not compartmentalized rights, the same rights that we need to access quality education, housing rights, racial justice, all of the intersecting oppressions that affect our rights to live in safe and healthy communities. They're all interconnected. We need to be responsive to the erosion of all of them and stand together as we fight to get people into office who are really going to fight for our communities. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me just remind the listening audience that they're listening to 90.3 WHPC, this week's Long Island News. And we're speaking with Nicole Margiasso, and she's the director of organizing for Planned Parenthood of New York. They're, we just shake our heads and can't believe the series of events that occurred to make this possible. And I hope it's more than a conversation by the people in government of exactly what went on to get us here. You know, the appointing of judges, and so much of this is involved in that. Now, if let's just say, hypothetically, that Kathy Hochul does not make it through the next election, and New York winds up having a Republican governor. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you just never know what's down the road, right? One thing that we are working on right now is passing the Equal Rights Amendment in New York, and that would amend our state constitution to include protection against discrimination for people of all genders, sexual orientations, race, and pregnant people, which would include pregnancy outcomes. And so we are looking to enshrine rights into our state constitution that would have long-lasting protections regardless of what governor we have.
Right. So many of these things they make perfect sense when we sit down and we talk about them. But then it would appear as they work their way up the line, the lack of political will to do the right thing is a constant reminder that, our system needs a boot.
Yeah, and I would argue that political will is sometimes reflective of the temperature for their constituents. So the more that electeds hear from their constituents about what issues are important to them, that absolutely does sway them and have an impact on them. Right. They're representing us, So I guess, Bill, if I could just put a plug in for how people can, respond to this moment in Long Island, is to remember to tell their friends, community members, their circles, that abortion is still safe and legal in Long Island, and we need to continue to fight for it. And the way that people can fight for it is by participating in elections, holding their electeds responsible, donating to abortion funds, specifically in states that have lost access to abortion care. These funds help provide resources to people who need to travel out of state to get the care that they need. So that's a really kind of easy way that people can direct some resources to help people in other parts of the state, of the country.
Yeah. It's real disheartening when you see any political faction uses these machinations to get things done rather than, how about a referendum to the American people? Because nobody really wants to know what the American people as a whole think. And that, it's things like that irk me every time. Ask us. We'll tell you, but the will of the people is not necessarily what the leaders of the people are shooting to do,
Right. But I will say, I agree. And I also deeply feel that this is a powerful country. And when we are pushed to the edge, we will rise up and exert our will and fight back. And that is what's happening.
Right.
And there's a huge political backlash happening right now that conservatives did not want to happen right before an election. And we need to really seize this moment and this power and vote. Yeah.
But I guess this is sadly, this is the game, right? That we always play. It's stunning that something that we thought was really in granite all of a sudden is not. And, we don't get to pick the things that come up for grabs when someone decides, let's have a political, let's go against this thing. Let's get rid of that. And then,
Planned Parenthood is unique as a healthcare provider in that we actually have to have an advocacy arm. Mm-hmm. We've had to fight for these rights all along the way. And what we learn is if we stop fighting, they will go away.
Yeah.
This
that's
battle with the patriarchy.
Right. Isn't that you reminded me of the quote of Benjamin Franklin after the Second Continental Congress when he came outside. They asked him, what do we have? Do we have a monarchy or do we have a republic? And he said, a republic, if you can keep it. And that's what we're learning from all of this. Just because somebody wrote the law and it passed, and you still have to fight to keep it. The same thing as democracy. Just because you've got it doesn't mean it just sticks around, and you have to.
It's a verb.
Yeah. You really got to work at it. Well, what else would you like to say about your services or the role that you play or the things you'd like to see happen?
Really, we just want to remind community members that PPGNY, Planned Parenthood as a whole, is here for you. We're never going to stop fighting to provide you the best sexual and reproductive health care that we can. We are with you. Our doors are open. Come join us. Come be a patient with us, join our advocacy efforts, spread the word, tell your stories. It's personal stories. 1 in 4 women will have an abortion in their life, and people don't know that. We need to stop stigmatizing abortion and sex education and help to shift our culture to one that really supports all people in our communities to be healthier and happier and have better chance to achieve their dreams and take advantage of opportunities. You've had, experience obviously in this arena. Do you have any stories of, I don't want names, but people who have availed themselves of your services, and how things work out, or I can tell my own story. I was 15 years old and found myself pregnant, and it was devastating beyond belief. And it felt like such a personal failure to myself at that age. And I was incredibly privileged to be here in New York, in a state that had access to sexual and reproductive health care. But my story was such that I just had to go one town over. But because I didn't have a car, because I didn't have resources, my pregnancy went on further than it should have, because I was too ashamed because of stigma to tell my parents. I was too ashamed to tell my older siblings. And so I kept it hidden. And it went longer than it should have. And the amount of mental distress that it caused me trying to hide something from my primary family, from my school, and then feeling so much shame on top of it. I was able to access an abortion with Planned Parenthood, and the amount of gratitude and relief that I felt after to be able to go forward with my life and not be connected to, bless him, but a dysfunctional boyfriend at that time, and go on to college and go on to find a partner in the future who was a much better fit for me, and have my own family on my terms when I was ready. I will forever be grateful for having that chance. And I also shouldn't have even gone through what I did to access that care. Right.
Yeah. You know what? The other thing that in some of the states that have made this difficult to do, when you think about, I talk to politicians and interview them all the time, and one of the things that I bring up is the unintended consequences. They may have just passed a law. We're going to do this thing, and you say, okay, great. Did you think about this? Did you think about that?
Right.
And oftentimes, no. They didn't think about, we'll worry about that when it gets here. Oh, really? How about all the people that are going to be affected by that? There seems to be a lot of that. It's like somebody walking around on your nice new carpeting with their muddy boots and just messing everything up, and, no consideration.
Right. You have politicians making healthcare decisions. And so the messiness that is falling out from this, we are seeing all the different kinds of cases that, of course, they didn't consider because they didn't know about. Right. And, the fallout will continue. Yeah. And it's painful to watch. It's unacceptable, truly.
Do you have any contact information for you and for Planned Parenthood, but people can go up, maybe go online and look for things? Or
in our website, you can visit our website, and then you will find all the resources. People could even input their zip code, and they will find a clinic.
Right. And what's the website? Just Planned Parenthood?
.org.
.org. Okay.
Planned Parenthood of Greater New York.org.
Oh, okay. Planned Parenthood of Greater New York.org. So
Yes.
anyone looking to find out more about what Planned Parenthood does, what they can do for you, but I think one
Also,
of the
how they can take action.
Right. Well, I was just going to say that I think one of the things that came out of our discussion today here was everyone's got to go vote. Everyone's got to go vote, because that I think in some way that kind of dilutes anyone's plans as far as trying to control the outcome of those things. But that's for another interview. In any event, I'd like to thank you both for coming and spending some time with us. And as always, my guest has been Nicole Margiasso, the Director of Organizing at Planned Parenthood of Greater New York. Thanks for being here. And I always ask guests if we call again and we want to talk again, that you'd be glad to come back on. Great.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bill.
Oh, thank you. And hopefully things get better. Just, in the regular operating arena, and, well, we'll see. It could be a good thing that this happened, in that the results can be that our lawmakers and the people together can put laws in place that make sure it can never happen again. That's all we can hope for. In any event, the clock on the wall says it's time for this week's Long Island News. To move on out of here, we thank you for joining us and remind you that you can listen every Friday at 3 p.m. right here on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.